All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with April. April, you know what? I didn't even ask you how to pronounce this. This is like our third or fourth conversation. And I
I know.
never asked you how do
Listen,
you.
so many people get tripped up on my name, so I am so used to. You could have just said this is April, but my name is April Pertwee, which is a
Pertwee, I
very
would have never
unusual. I
got
know,
that.
no, nobody ever says that. The way it's spelled, most people say Pertuis or
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
so yeah, a lot of times, even Kevin, when I introduce myself, I just say, "Hi, I'm April from Light Beamers," because I know that no one's ever going to remember that last name. So, but anyway, I am April Pertwee.
I have a few friends that are that way that like you would have never guessed the pronunciation of their last name by looking at the spelling and stuff, you
Right,
know.
right.
And
I get it.
and what's so shocking to me is like I said, this is like our third or fourth conversation because we've had a get to know each other call. I've been on your podcast and now
I
here
know.
you are on mine. And it just occurred to me, I never even in all these conversations that we've had, I've never asked her how do you pronounce your last name because I just never even occurred to me.
Ah.
so,
Well, now you know.
so now I know. Well, I want to start by giving a shout out to Fabi Paolini because Fabi is the one that introduced you and I. And I'll tell
Yes.
you, man, I mean, when she sends me an email and send it to you too, just talking both of us up to each other and saying, you
Yeah.
guys have really got to connect and here's why. And, there is no better way to meet
Mm-mm.
somebody new than through a relationship with somebody that you've already got.
Which is totally up your alley, of
Yeah.
course, and mine
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's just people that you have in your world that, if they think enough of you to make an introduction and they kind of tell you why in that introduction, um, just when I see those introductions come across, I don't even think twice about it. Like I didn't
Yeah.
know you. I didn't, other than the little blurb that Fabi wrote in her email. And I didn't even, which a lot of times, people will do, I didn't even go to try to like scope you out. I didn't even go to
Me
your
neither.
LinkedIn. I just was like, oh, Fabi says, okay. I
Yeah.
mean, let's book a
Yeah.
call. You shared your link or I shared my link. I don't remember when we got on a call. And then now look at all the things that have unfolded. It's
I
been
know. I
amazing.
know. And you know what? You brought up something really important there because like I'm the same way. I don't go look at somebody's LinkedIn. I don't try to
Oh,
find it because for me personally, I host these events too for the same reason. I don't tell the people that I invite who else is going to be joining them and stuff because I don't want none of them all Googling and researching each other.
right, right.
And I coming into a conversation, I don't want to come into a conversation with somebody I've met for the first time with any preconceived ideas about who they are or what they're all
Sure.
about. I just want to have a conversation, just get to know them, you
Yeah.
know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
uh so yeah, I never research anybody in advance either.
Yeah.
And so
It's a little bit counterintuitive for me because my real background is as a journalist, so my
yes.
brain does want to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's actually fun for me. I love to scout and like poke around and find things because I'm pretty good at that. But there are just times in this is an instance where I think even though you might be inclined to go do that just because maybe that's how you're wired, just really I think the point is like trusting the source,
Yeah.
right? That's journalism language, but like trusting the source of where the introduction comes from, that you can be relieved of having to go do that work. And
Yeah.
that I think is what someone like Fabi for the two of us, and we all have those people in our lives where when you know the introduction's coming from a certain person, you don't even have to go do all
That's
that.
right.
That you trust the source, and
Yeah.
that's all you really need. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, for the first conversation that we had, it was I just felt right from the get-go that I'd known you for years. And so,
Same. Oh
and
my gosh. Yes. I felt like
and
I just met a brother,
yeah,
like
yeah,
literally. I'm like, wow, where's this
yeah,
guy been? So
yeah.
cool.
And I mean, what a testament to the power of right relationships right there,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so Well, I'll tell you, I'm really looking forward to this conversation and digging in a lot deeper with you about what you do and who you serve and all that. In fact, we'll just start with that question to begin, and we'll dive deeper from there. And I know you're kind of in a transition, because you might have a couple ways you want to answer this. But what do you do, April, and who do you serve?
Yeah, well, I am in a bit of a transition, but not in answering that question, because even with what how I'm kind of transitioning my business, it's more of an evolution, a better way to serve the people that I serve. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
excited to share more about that. But I, as I mentioned just a minute ago, have a background as a journalist. So I have been in the world of storytelling my entire career. I'm fascinated by stories. I believe in the power of storytelling, and I've witnessed it in my own life, and I've witnessed it in the stories that I've been blessed to tell over the many, many, many years of my career. And what I do today is still that, but I'm really teaching other women. Specifically, I work with women leaders and entrepreneurs and thought leaders and change makers out there, how to really harness the power of their story to get it out there to help them become more visible so that other people can truly experience them and the work that they're doing. So, a lot of times we're really good at what we do for a living, we're really good at our knowledge and our expertise,
Yeah.
but we often miss the step of sharing our own journey and our own story, which sometimes can be harder to tell. It's not always rainbows and unicorns, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people like to skim over that because they want the branded, polished version of themselves out there. And what I'm helping, my clients with is really learn how to deepen their relationships with those potential clients and existing clients by really harnessing the power of their story and beginning to put storytelling at the forefront of everything they do in terms of communication.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think a lot of people are afraid to just share certain stories because of what people might think of them if they
Absolutely.
shared that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I really find that there's two camps. There's a camp, and I'm writing a book on this right now, so I've been doing a lot of research on this, and the camps kind of work out to be about 60-40.
Okay.
And about 40% of people roughly will say, I don't really think I have a story. There's nothing really anything for me to share. I've kind of lived a boring, bland, vanilla kind of life. I haven't gone through any kind of big thing, and I'm pretty blessed over here, pretty lucky, but I'm also just kind of, normal, whatever normal is, right? And so therefore they don't think about storytelling because they also don't think anyone would want to hear that. Why would anyone want to hear a boring story?
Yeah.
There's nothing salacious or interesting to share.
Hmm.
Okay. Then the other half, little over half of the population is the polar opposite. They
Okay.
do have a story. They've been through some stuff. They've been through some things. And a lot of times those are things that they're not really, that it's not something they want to run out the door and scream to people and share because it's been challenging. It's been hard. It's been maybe not flattering. We all make mistakes. We all have things we've been through. We have experiences that have left us bruised and battered, all the way up to big time trauma stuff, right? So we don't want to share that because we do worry. Well, I mean, what would people think if I shared that?
Yeah.
And so, in both cases, though, if you think about it, in both cases, we are letting the story, or in our minds, the absence of story, to hold power over us. And this is keeping us quiet. It's keeping us small. It's keeping us from doing things and from saying things. I talk a lot about being an unmuted woman. You're being mute. It's muting you. It's tampering you down. When we learn to shift that, and this is really the intersection of my work, is because I have a philosophy that I've held for a very long time that everybody has a story. Yes, a story that should be shared. And when we share that story, we actually shine a light We're not going to scare people away with our stories. I promise we won't. If anything, you're going to attract so many people to you like moth to a flame because they're over there hanging out with their own stories
Yep.
that they're also ashamed of or feeling battered by or also feeling like I'm a nobody and my story is boring. All of that. Everything we're thinking in our brains, someone else is thinking
Yeah.
too. So when we verbalize that and actually share, you attract people to you. So now you start to see why storytelling is super important in business, right? If we want to build a brand, you might want to tell some stories.
Yeah.
So, this is when you learn to start to harness the power of your story. And therefore, the story no longer holds power over you. And
Yeah.
that's freeing. When you get to a place of
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yep, this happened to me and I'm going to tell you all about it,
Yep.
you are no longer letting the circumstances, the people, the experience hold power over you. And that is a really, 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 really beautiful place to get to. And that's when you become unmuted, you know, like I'll go
Yeah.
tell you, before we started our recording, you're like, okay, is there anything? I'm like, Kevin, you can't trip me up. I mean, I will answer any question
Yep.
you give me. I have learned to be a very open book. There are things that I'll say that maybe I'm like, you know, this isn't my proudest moment, but I'll be honest with you. I went through that, right? Because I don't want to let those stories have power over me. And I've worked very hard to be my own client, right? To really work on my own storytelling and really test my theory and put my stories out there. And I've yet to find where a story has come back to, you know, be a weapon against me.
Yeah.
If anything, it's
Yeah.
been a weapon to diffuse the things that I've feared the most.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's interesting. I used to be this person who was just way more reserved
Hmm.
and would not share a lot of stuff because in my mind I'm thinking, what would they think of me if they knew
Yep.
about that?
Right.
And and yet, like what you said, what happens when we talk about that, whatever, we become relatable to other people.
Exactly.
Anybody else who's had that experience, all of a sudden we start talking about, they're like, oh my gosh, somebody else has dealt with this too. I'm not
Yes.
alone.
Yes.
I remember back in 1997, I got a DUI. That was one of the most embarrassing points of my
Hmm.
life. I
Hmm.
didn't talk about that for years,
Yeah.
only with the people that closest to me that absolutely had to know.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, the 2 years following a DUI is ugly. I
Yeah.
mean, man, you got so much to deal with. It cost me probably $10,000 getting a
Oh, I'm
DUI,
sure it
you
did.
know.
Yeah.
And when I really started learning this, I remember one time I wrote a blog post about
Hmm.
my experience getting a DUI and talking about how I can't even believe I'm even going to talk about this right now.
Hmm.
And I wrote out the whole doggone story and how it happened and how it made me feel and all of that. And I got such a huge response to
Oh,
that.
I know
People,
you did.
friends of mine talking about, oh my gosh, Kev, I had a DUI, which I was like, I was totally shocked. I had no idea you had a DUI,
Yeah.
And
It,
it was amazing. And it just was, for one, it just felt like this weight was lifted because I'm like,
mhm.
wow, I can totally talk about this stuff,
Yeah, you can talk about it and not die. Like nothing's
Yeah,
bad's going to happen. Actually,
yeah,
good things happen. You know,
yeah,
brought more people to you, people that were already in your world that said, "Oh, that happened to me too." And you're like, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea that happened to you too." Now you had an even deeper connection, right? And
yeah,
so that's exactly what happens. And I think we maybe know this intellectually because we experience it out there. You know, we always appreciate it when someone tells their story and then we can relate to them. But when it comes to us, we're like, oh, we suddenly have amnesia. You
yeah,
know, we don't remember that. And then like, oh no, I can never tell my story. And so, we have to be reminded that because it's an emotional experience to share your own story. I'm sure that was
yeah.
I bet one thing, would you find, thinking back to that blog post when you wrote about, getting your DUI, did you find that to be healing and cathartic for you to finally release
Absolutely,
that story?
100%,
Absolutely. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
So that's the experience, right? That's the shining the light for others, but it also shines the light for you because it kind of just relieved you of holding that in. It was almost like keeping a secret. And after a while, I always say, look, one way or the other, those stories are coming up. So you
yeah,
might as well be the one that brings it up instead of it coming back to bite you some other way.
Yeah.
Because one way or the other, those stories are going to come out. Nobody keeps secrets forever.
Yeah. You know, it was my buddy Jesse that encouraged me to do that, to write about it.
Yeah.
And because, I remember, in fact, I remember the first time I ever met him, he made this comment to me that landed so hard because he's like, Kev, he's like, I got nothing to prove and nothing to hide. And I was like, wow. I'm like, man, what an amazing place that must be to come from.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, man, I sure would like to be able to come from that place, you
Right.
know. And it was, and through just getting to know each other and all that. And I had a, mentoring relationship with him. I was investing in him helping me. And he was the one that encouraged me to write my story.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, he's like, write it out. And he's like, and if you never ever share it with anybody, just go through the experience of writing it out as if you were going to put it up on your blog and just
Mhm.
share it with everybody, But he's like, you don't have to do it. And he's like, and I, for one, I would be, man, I think that would be a riveting story to read. And so I did it, and I shared it with him, and he was just like, wow, Kev. He's like, this is powerful. This is
Mhm.
powerful. And he's like, this is totally your call. This is totally your call, what you want to do. But he's like, I think you're going to be met with open arms when you do this.
Yeah.
And I still remember when I was copying and pasting that into the blog, and I was just my heart was definitely racing. It
Yeah.
was racing because I'm like, I'm thinking about all that could go wrong with this, and what
It's
would people think?
yeah.
But yet I mean, it was one of the most responded to blog posts I had ever written. And all these people, and people that I knew, people that I didn't know, that just were following along and stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, it was and like you said, such a healing experience and such a discovery that I'm like, oh my gosh, Jesse's so right. And this is what it feels like to
Mhm.
come from the place of nothing to prove and nothing to hide,
Yeah, exactly. And people
and that
feel that
changed.
authenticity from you when you're at that place, where you really are forthcoming and you've shared a lot of your story and it's all out there. And now, I mean, and I want to be super clear. Not every single part of our lives deserve the public information,
Sure,
right?
sure.
So I am talking about things that would be relatable, would kind of relieve you of some pressure, which telling that story did.
Yeah.
You weren't beholden to that any longer. We're not always ready to tell that story until a certain point. Kind of heal through it. Initially, you wouldn't, maybe have told that story initially when that first happened, but now many years later, like, why are you still holding on to that?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like doing no good. So that was a
Yeah.
time to release it. Um, there are things that I'm not a fan or a pusher of go share every dirty detail in your life. There are things that are private between people. Like, I'm not going to share the insides of my marriage with the public sector. I'm not going to share the insides of my family life, my parenting style, like things with my kids. I'm certainly not going to share someone else's story because I don't have that. I don't. That's not mine to do. But so when we talk about this, I mean, the things that a lot of people are holding on to, though, is gold that could be used in a positive, powerful way. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Your DUI is a perfect example of that because that was a story that you were done with, right? Like, why don't I just share it, right? Like, he's right. Why don't I just write the story? And it was something that you had overcome. Obviously, you were, at the place in your life where that was not your life anymore. And you were at a place where it was useful, it was positive. You could share the journey for yourself and how it made you feel. And that is what makes it so relatable. That's why that resonated so much with other people, is they could feel your authenticity around that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I'm curious. So what, and you don't have to name names here or anything like that, but what is example of a result or two that you have helped clients get through this process that you're just incredibly proud of, April?
Well, gosh, I can think of quite a few,
I
thankfully,
bet you
off the top
can.
of my head, but I'll share a few that come to mind. I've been really blessed. So, in the work that I get to do, I, you know, I'm looking. I've come from a media background, so I'm really looking like how can we get the maximum coverage for the vulnerable share we're going to give here with telling our story. Where can we get maximum coverage? So, I've worked a lot with helping clients write books, become published, write keynote talks to get on stages,
Okay.
launch podcasts like this, or get on shows, like to be a guest and share their story in an interview. So we've done a lot of things that are putting people in some categories that are quite uncomfortable if you've never done that before. So I can think of a few really big examples where as one client of mine, Dawn, she's become a very, very good friend of mine as that is how it goes, right? When she first got into my world, she came into our community, and I didn't know her that well at the time at all, really. She was someone had recommended she get into my community, and she came into my community, and I'm definitely big on like, hey, let's be visible, let's get out there on video, like talk to your audience. It's kind of basic, right? But a lot of people are uncomfortable with just that basic level of communication. We see it still to this day in the year 2026. There are people that do not want to get on video. So, why? That's kind of a first hurdle I help people over. Like, it's not about you getting on video, it's about you communicating with your audience. Your audience actually needs to hear your voice. I mean, this is a good thing,
Yeah.
you can hear your warmth and your tone and maybe your humor, and these are things that are like communication things that people will resonate with, and it will help you advance your goal of bringing people into your world.
Yeah.
So I had Dawn come into my world, who, I mean, it was such a big deal for her to even get on video, but she did it. I mean, she's like, okay, I'm signing up, I'm ready, I'm going to start doing this. So we did a lot of free trainings in our communities back then, and we kind of like
Okay.
encouraged them to do that. So she started there. That was literally, she's a real estate agent, had been a real estate agent for 20 years at that time, now longer. And but she I think was at a stage in her life where she knew, and I think this is really where my clients are when they come to me. They know there is more. They know that there is more that they're not tapping into, and they may not quite have it all figured out of how they're going to get there or what exactly that is, but they become curious enough to make them do things they probably never would have done before. And Dawn had just gotten curious enough to like, I wonder how I could maybe grow my real estate business. I wonder how I could reach more people, that the visibility of getting on video made sense enough to her that she was willing to try it. Well, from there, and really in an about 5 years span, we did a series of collaborative books at one point. She wrote her story in one of our books and got published.
Wow.
She started speaking on stage. She came through one of our programs, and she started really thinking about how would I even, because her company at the time, because she was starting to grow, because she was getting more visible and publishing books and doing, like around town doing some presentations. And so her company was like, oh, we need you to come to the conference. Oh, we need you to go do that. They were needing her to speak. And I say this all the time, leaders need to be able to speak with confidence. You really are, whether you see yourself as a speaker or not, you need to have that ready. You need to get over that hurdle as fast as you can, because the more you're ready to speak, the more you get to do things like what I'm doing with you today. Like, I'm not scared of this, right? I'm more than willing to come and talk and share. So they could be on small stages, big stages. We need to be ready. And I kept saying that to Dawn, and she was very gun shy of the whole idea of getting on stage. That was something that was really kind of, I think, the pinnacle for her. Like, I can do a lot of things, but I don't know if I can do that. And
Mm.
I just kept encouraging her. I kept kind of feeding her some opportunities, some small ones to get her feet wet. And then ultimately, her company was like, they started tapping her. And I told her, I said, they're going to tap you, and you need to be ready. You don't want to say no to those opportunities. You need to
Yeah.
be ready. You need to be confident. That girl is out there traveling the freaking world right now, speaking left and right, huge audiences, massive real estate conventions. She has grown her organization to over five, maybe even more now, but last count I heard, over 500 agents that she
Wow.
has added to her personal organization, which in the real estate world, she's done
Yeah.
a lot of good work. And so, and not stopping. You know,
Wow.
like,
Wow.
and I'm so proud of her. It's so, you want to talk about a woman who's unmuted herself. Like
Yeah.
she's like your friend that said, I have nothing to hide and
Yeah.
everything to say.
Yeah.
And that's where she is. And she tells her story beautifully about going from living a life of scarcity. I mean, for much of her life, she lived in scarcity and fear and came from a family that didn't really ever kind of teach her what was possible. They didn't know.
Yeah.
And now just the world that she just keeps stepping into, she understands abundance now and she wants it for others and she's out there teaching it. So, I mean, she's one of many, 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 many women like that I've been able to support and coach and help them really harness the power of their story. None of that would work. None of that would work well if Dawn wasn't willing to share the story. The story is really the central piece of it. It's the nucleus of the visibility
Yeah.
and her vulnerability and her authenticity. And I just have countless others like that, women that have published books, that have stepped on stages. Even I'll tell you this, even in my own family, um, I'll try to tell you this, Kevin, without crying. But very, very recently, just last weekend, my son is 20, about to be 21, but he's 20,
Okay.
and he is planning to go into ministry. That's a call that's been put on his heart, and he's actively pursuing that. And he's had some really powerful mentors in his life that have been, kind of discipled him in his faith journey. And one of those big mentors passed away recently from cancer. And before he passed away, he asked my son to give the eulogy at his funeral. And
Wow.
that eulogy took place this past weekend. And it was in a room of more than 500 people. This man was very well loved, um, with people 3 and 4 times his age up there on stage with him. And even to teach this to my own child, that he can do this. I mean, he definitely ran his talk by me. We worked on it a little bit. I gave him the advice that I could. I didn't want to give him the words. I wanted it to be purely his. But to even see this all the way down to my own children, to see the confidence that they have to be able to do that, to stand in front of a room like that at such a really a highly emotional time to someone that means so much to you. I've given a eulogy before as well. And I don't want to say that's why you want to be ready to speak because you might be called on to give a eulogy for somebody one day, but you might.
But you
And those are the
might. Yeah.
moments, and those are the moments that actually really matter,
Yeah.
not growing our business, right? So that's why I feel so passionate about harnessing stories, being a competent speaker, going out there and saying yes to opportunities and not backing down from them. So that's a really long way of saying I've helped a lot of people do that, but it's been fun to get to do that.
Those are two amazing examples. And I love that one of them was, for one, so recent and it was your son. I think that is just awesome. I think that is awesome.
It was incredible. It was for so many reasons, right? As a parent, regardless of what I do for a living, I would have been proud of him no matter
Yeah.
what.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but man, I'm telling you, the dude did not look at his notes one single time. I mean, I am just like, wow, like if I could just get all my speakers to do but you know what he did? He practiced it.
Yeah.
He practiced it like a maniac, which is, was one of the pieces of advice that I gave him. I'm like, don't memorize. You don't want to memorize this. You want to speak from your heart, but you do want to write it out and you want to practice it, which is exactly, the advice I give all of my speakers. Like, you want to speak from the heart. We want it to feel authentic. You don't want this to be a memorized script, and we don't want it to feel scripted, but you want to know what you want to say and you want to
That's
practice
right.
that in advance. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's once again back to Jesse, because he always told me, practice is where you
Yes,
really learn,
it is right.
and
That's where it's all at.
Yeah. Yeah, you've gotta like do it in real time and go through it so that you can hear yourself and how, and then that's how you work out the kinks, and that's how you
Yeah,
get into the flow of like, oh yeah, this feels good. And then it does just become second nature from there. And I'm sure the
absolutely.
fact that this gentleman had such a profound impact on your son's life, and then asked him, "Hey, I would really appreciate it if you would do this, man." I mean, what a gift! What a
It
gift!
was it was an unbelievable gift. It really
Yeah,
was. I mean, you
yeah,
want to your whole thing is about, connections for people. That was he opened a massive door for my son literally from the grave, like
yeah,
because 500 people got to witness him and he was really brilliant. He was really good. So this is so cool to see that happen.
yeah,
And that's just the thing. Like if we just sit back and are quiet and we don't take those opportunities, we don't harness it. Do you know how many opportunities we're missing out on that could
yeah,
just be mind blowing? Like I've had so many things come my way that I was like, I would have never seen that coming,
yeah,
like I never could have thought to even dream that dream. But because we get ourselves out there and we're sharing our story and we're being visible, doors open.
yeah,
Doors that you didn't even know exist open. And that's really, really, really what I get excited about is seeing that happen for my clients, seeing it happen for me, because seeing it happen for my kids, because those are the things that we don't even expect.
yeah,
Like, oh yeah, the best a business owner is going to hope for is like, maybe I'll grow my business.
yeah,
That'd be
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Maybe I can reach more people. Maybe I can have a bigger impact. Maybe I can make a few more dollars. Great, all
yeah,
of that is good, and nothing wrong with wanting those things. But really, it's these intangible things that we have no ideas around the corner
yeah,
that we can't access until we just kind of put ourselves in the arena to begin with.
yeah, absolutely. Well, now that people have an idea about who you are and what you're all about, April, I want to shift gears just a little
Yeah.
bit. And I want to start talking about the relationship side of this as it impacts you and stuff. So, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yeah, for sure have been so many people. I'll share two quick stories with you
Okay.
that I think illustrate some pretty, some big things that opened my eyes, which was a doorway for sure. The first one, as I've just shared about, being confident in speaking and all of that. The first one was I started out my career as a television journalist, which I was speaking, right? I was delivering the news, but I was reading off scripts. And one of the things I had a early mentor in my career in the television world, who was at the company that I worked for at the time. She pulled me aside. She said, "We're going to start getting you out in the community. We want you to start doing community events." And this was not uncommon at a TV station. They would ask, news reporters and anchors to do that. But and my time had come, and so they wanted me out there starting to do that. And so they would send me out to go and, speak. I use that in air quotes, but like to kind of do public appearances and to give words. I go to a mayor's breakfast or a ribbon cutting or a high school talent show that they wanted me to MC, this kind of stuff. And believe it or not, I was really, really good at being in front of a camera and delivering a story of the day based off my interviews and all the things, my package story for the day. I could go and do that in front of a camera all day long. But would get me out in public with eyeballs staring back at me and dignitaries and even high school kids, whatever it was, it completely unnerved me. And so I went to her after doing a few of these and I was like, I don't think you should keep doing this. I don't think I'm the girl for the job. I don't think I'm representing the TV station well. This makes me very, very nervous. And, I don't feel like this. I don't think I'm any good at this, which is hysterical because what I do now today is help other people. But the piece of advice she gave me in that moment was so good. And it was, and it really did push me into a new direction in my career. She said, April, she said, whether or not you stay here working at this TV station, even working in this industry, is not the point. She's like, you may or may not hang around here, but what you will do is you will go out there and you will be a leader, and leaders will be called on to speak. So you might as well learn how to do it on our dime.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I was like, well, in the moment, I was like, crap, she's going to keep sending me out there. I'm like 28 years old. I just didn't want to do it. I was so intimidated by it. What I learned later, as I've looked back on that, she taught me such a big lesson. And I don't even think she knew that I think she knew she was teaching me a lesson, but I don't think she knew what I really took away from it,
Mhm.
which was I was making me going out into the community all about me. I was worried about my performance. I
Yeah.
was worried about the words that would come out of my mouth. I was worried about, did I look good? Did I sound good? Was I a good representation of the station, right? Was I being this public figure good enough, right? So I was making it all about me and I was making it about my performance, which I think is where a lot of people get tripped up on
Sure, sure. I
speaking,
could
right?
totally see that.
100%. So, I mean, I came to it honest, like we all do. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just what I thought. But what I realized was speaking has nothing to do with that. Speaking is really more about your willingness to make an impact. And so I'm way more inclined to go, I'm just more inclined to speak today and do it with ease because I've learned to let go of it being about me and about my performance and just really like, who's the audience? um, and how can I go and serve them and make an impact? And if that somehow boomerangs back to me, it's going to be great, but that's not my focus anymore. And that was a major door opener. She didn't necessarily connect me to another human and actually, hook me up with a job or, give me some sort of like pathway to success. But she did. She did all those things in that advice. So that's one that I refer back to all the time because, here I am 30 plus years later from that moment, and it still sticks with me what
Yeah.
a gift that
Yeah.
was. Another one was when I got out of television, I was trying to figure out, like where's the squirrely tail my career is going to take me next. And um, I started auditioning for and wanting to get into producing television, and
Okay.
so I ended up moving, and we landed in a new state where I didn't know anybody, and I had no connections to try to get my career lifted off again. We moved at the time for my husband's job, and so I literally was at a place of starting over and kind of reimagining what my career was going to be. And I just knew I didn't want it to be in news any longer. But I had skill at that point that I wanted to transfer, and I still
Mhm.
wanted to be kind of in the storytelling realm. So I ended up meeting someone who made some opportunities to where we could go around and meet different people in the industry. Her name was Elise Williams. And Elise created this thing for people in the industry who wanted to be in television or wanted to do producing or video, any kind of like media. She
Okay.
created an opportunity where we could come along with her and she would go around and introduce us to decision makers,
Oh,
and, which was super cool. It was an amazing offer that she put out there that I took advantage of, and it was a way for me to get to know people and understand, some of the players in the industry at the time. This was in North Carolina when I lived in North Carolina, and there was a man that I ended up meeting at one of those nights. They were on Monday nights, and we went all over Charlotte, really, meeting people because Charlotte was a really big hub back in those days of video production. And I met this man, Cecil Stokes, who I kind of felt like, he and I just immediately, kind of like you and I, Kevin, when we met, we just really kind of immediately got each other.
Yeah.
And I came in with kind of my pitch and my spiel, and I did my thing. And it was just one of those times where I was like, I was still kind of would get nervous about those experiences. But that night I was like, no, I'm going to own this. I'm just going to be myself. I'm just going to be April, and I'm just going to let this be what happens. And for that reason, was able to make a really good connection with him. He went on to really change the trajectory of my career. He brought me into HGTV, DIY, Food Network, and I ended up producing television for those networks for a while,
Wow.
and even had opportunity to do some on-camera work for them and be a host of a few no-name shows. You're not going to find me like I'm not a Joanna Gaines, but really at a time when my career was in such transition, he gave me a shot. He really said, I think this girl has legs. I think she has the chops. I think we can put her to work. And that decision opened up so many other doors that led to the next thing, that led to the next thing, that led to the next thing, that really fed me for the next 20 years of my career.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just
Wow.
incredible. And even modern day, to where I am today, it's been coaches, it's been people that I've sought their advice and help and support in building my business. But then in turn, without me asking, they would put me on their stage at events. They would open up doors. They would make introductions, and again, I just wanted to help my business and wanted kind of the mechanics and needed some coaching and needed some strategy. I needed help kind of digging my way through some potholes that you get into when you're growing a business. But they would always they would go the extra mile. One is Ron Reich. I think you and I may have him in common. I think
Yes.
you know
Yeah.
Ron. But Ron's been an example of that. He's been someone that has definitely gone the extra mile for me and has, introduced me to people, and he's put me on his stage. I've spoken multiple times at his events, and he leaves me a message every Monday to this day and just checks in on me, and just it's those kind of people that just they get their claws in you, and I love it. It's just
Yeah.
amazing what they do, and it inspires you. It reminds you you are supported. It does open doors and give you kind of a next step that you can take. I've been really blessed. I think, as most of us probably could say, we all have people in our lives that have done big things for us, but those are a few that I would name
Yeah.
purposely.
I love that. I love that. I mean, and what again, what a testament to the power of right relationships
Yeah.
and the value of right relationships, and look at all that has come from just those couple of relationships right there,
Yeah.
and
It's
and
been
not just for
career
you.
serving. Like, I
Yes.
have made a career off of those connections.
Yeah.
They've opened doors that, I then had the chops to be able to walk through, but I couldn't have opened the door
Yeah. Yeah.
person. I didn't even know the door existed in some cases. So
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, it's you look back on your life and you can be really appreciative. I love that question so much. I love the whole premise of your show for that reason, but it's made me think about that. I actually asked my husband today because I knew he was coming on your show, and I said, "Hey, who are the people that have been your connectors? Who are the people that have been door openers for you? Who have been the people that have kind of changed the trajectory of things when you think back on it?"
Yeah.
So it was a good conversation that we had today too, because it made me think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for anyone who might be listening to this now going, wow, Kevin, I really love April. I love who she is. I love how she shows up. And maybe they're even thinking, man, maybe I should have a conversation with her. She might be able to help me. Or maybe they've even got a friend that thinking that like that because I'm gonna tell you, I'm thinking that right now is I've got a couple of friends I want to tell you about. And any website, any resources we can share with folks if they want to find out more?
Yes. Well, a couple of things. You can go to my website, lightbeamers.com. My company's name is Lightbeamers. Going back to that, when you share your story, you shine a light. So I'm just trying to turn people into light beamers out there, right? So that's what we're doing. That's our mission. You can go to lightbeamers.com and really find everything for the
Okay.
most part that you need. Um, I have a special invite to something that I'm shifting into that I'm really, really excited about, which is I'm really at a stage where I feel like we need more conversation around these topics of speaking and writing and visibility in general, because I feel like it is something that trips people up, and there's stages of our journey. I don't think any of us ever arrive. I think I've been speaking now for a long time, but I'm not the best speaker. I definitely can still learn things. I'm definitely still trying to put my reps in. I definitely want to continue to hone my craft even as a storyteller. I started my podcast 5 years ago, not because I wanted to have a podcast, but because I wanted to get better at storytelling.
Mhm.
And so we can always be learning. We can always be practicing. We talked about putting in the reps earlier. I'm opening something called just the Story Studio Rooms, which is a place where people can come and really start to see what writing and speaking and maybe podcasting and those types of visibility mechanisms could do for them, or to get better at them, right? Depending
Okay.
on where they are in their journey, and really just trying to build community around that. And this is something that I've started over on my Substack. And it is part of my paid tier, but I would love, which is nominal, you can still get in the rooms for like super cheap.
Yeah.
But I also just want to invite someone to come and experience the rooms with me. So I'd love to get someone to, you could just send me a message and let me know you're interested in joining a room, and I'll
Okay.
let you know when the next ones are, and you can pick which one you want to come to and be my guest. I
Okay.
think getting people in the room, a lot like what you do, Kevin, it's really about, could someone come in the room and maybe shed light on the situation for me, or maybe give me an opportunity to kind of talk things out loud. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect or polished yet, but a place where other like-minded people are on the same path, and we can be in conversation about those things together and either cheer you on, support you, give you tools and resources that we have. We really are doing that in these rooms. So writing rooms, speaker rooms, podcast rooms. We even have something called a listening room. So I'd love to share our rooms with people. And if people are interested in that, just reach out to me through my links that you'll share.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
very easy to find at Light Beamers everywhere. Don't try spelling my last name. We've already talked about. Don't look me up like that, right? Just find Light Beamers, send me a message, let me know you listen to Kevin's show, and I would love to invite you into one of our rooms if that is of interest.
Awesome. Awesome. Is there any last thing that you feel led to share, April, before we call it a wrap?
I would just love to give one last encouragement to anyone out there who might be in either one of those camps, one who just thinks they're kind of boring and bland and vanilla. I'll tell you that that's me. I don't have some giant story to share. I haven't overcome cancer or the loss of a child or divorce or bankruptcy. Or I mean, I've had losses, don't get me wrong, but they kind of measure up just like everyone else's losses in my estimation. And so I understand if you are in that 40% camp that feels like I don't really have anything to share. But you can have your everyday stories mean something to people. I've just shared today some of my everyday stories. They're not, gigantic, deep, dark secrets, but they're just my life and my experiences. And I believe those have merit and value in the world just as much as someone who might be in that other camp that has a story that they have no idea what to do with it. It feels hard to wrangle. They aren't sure what parts of the story to share. To just encourage them that, I mean, definitely I can help you, but just to be encouraged that there is a place, a way and a place to share those stories that will shine a positive light into this world. And that is really needed right now. Like,
Yeah.
look around.
Yeah.
And so each of you has the ability to shine your light in a way of sharing your story. And I just would love to encourage your audience to go do that.
Awesome. Well, April, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. And I'm like so excited to get this out there and share it with folks. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much.
You bet.